Yeah. So, really warm welcome to this short film, and delighted to have the opportunity for a brief conversation with you about the importance of leadership development in your career. Uh, so, maybe let's start with that. Could you tell us who you are, what you do, and something about your career trajectory, please?
Thank you, Louisa. Yes, thank you for the opportunity. My name's Therese, and I am now Chief Executive of Bradford District Care Foundation Trust, which is a mental health community trust based in Bradford and provides services to Bradford, Airedale, and Wakefield. I've been Chief Executive for 5 months now, and probably it's only in the last couple of years felt that that's what I wanted to do, wanted to be a chief executive. So my career in the NHS has been a little bit unusual. I started the NHS in November '99, so I've been there for just over 20 years. Before that, I spent the '90s in Africa and Asia, worked in health development, um, and came back here to the UK in '99 for what I thought was a brief period, but I'm still here. And I think when I reflect back that the foundation work that I did while I was in Africa and Asia really shaped what I wanted to do in the NHS. So I'm a manager. I'm an operations manager by background. I'm not a clinician. But what I did in when I was in Africa and Asia was you saw directly, and I've had this conversation with clinicians about the impact they can have. So what I found was that you could impact on people's lives really, really in a massive way when I worked abroad, just by making tiny changes to their lifestyle or their access to healthcare or whatever it might be. And what I think I've been searching for when I came back to the UK and worked in the NHS was how I could have a similar impact, not being a clinician, but how I could see that I could impact on people's lives. So my career has been a little bit strange. I haven't had a particular pathway. I've sort of chosen jobs because I fancied them, because I wanted them, because they were interesting. And that means that I have worked across all sectors. So I've worked in community care, I've worked in mental health, I've worked in tertiary services, I've worked in acute services, did a small amount of time in private sector. And I've always made moves because the jobs felt interesting to me, rather than because I felt that there was a trajectory that had to go on. I suppose that what happened then when I saw the job in Bradford in the middle of lockdown, not really the best time to be looking for a role, but the job in Bradford really, I kept looking at it and thinking, no, I'm not interested. And I kept coming back to it because there was something about it that just drew me in, because it felt to me that it was everything about my 30 years career, the overseas experience and the 20 years in the NHS would contribute to how I could do that job. So it felt like it was a coming together of everything I had ever done that I could bring to the role. And what I found in the interview was that they asked me about everything I'd ever done. So the first time ever in the NHS, in an interview for the chief exec role, I was asked about what I did in Pakistan and Zimbabwe and Somalia, because it was felt that that would really contribute to who I was and what I brought to the organisation. And that was the first time that happened. And that was also really affirming for me, that it felt like every part of the career that I'd had, every piece of work that I'd done in every organisation, whether that be here or internationally, contributed to the role. And that's why I obviously did so well at interview and got the job. But I felt that, you don't always get asked the questions at interview that you feel really comfortable in answering, and I felt really comfortable in answering the questions. So here I am in Bradford, 5 months in, the first Black African female chief executive in the NHS. I didn't know that until I was appointed. And I think what I have been trying to do over the last few months is think about how I can put that big hat on, because it's a big hat, and how I can use that to shape how I lead and shape the chief exec that I am in Bradford and what I do going forward.
Wonderful to hear you talking about what you want for yourself in the role, and the impact that you have in the role. And just linking back to what you said about the interview that you had for this role, asking about all of you, I'd like to ask about all of your leadership development. So, what part has leadership development played in your career trajectory?
So leadership development has been a huge part of my whole life, I think, in the NHS. I mean, we're pretty good at doing it in the NHS, probably
Mm,
in social care as well, but I know the NHS better. So
mm,
I've always worked with mentors. I've always worked with coaches.
mm,
I've been on a variety of leadership programs, some better than others. Um, I'm currently on the Aspiring Chief Exec program, which is a very different program.
mm,
And why that is important and why I think it contributed to me getting the chief exec job that I did in September is
mm,
because it talks very much about your impact and your presence.
mm,
So, having been on the Aspiring Chief Exec program, where you talk very much about where you've come from, we have to do on that program what we call an opening statement, where you talk about everything in your life from where you came from the experiences you've had in work, outside work, with your children, with your family, with your upbringing. And that brings you to a certain point in life. And that I think gave me the confidence to have the conversation in the interview, to bring all of myself to it. Because I think often in the NHS or in other senior roles, you talk very much about the work that you do. You don't necessarily talk about where you've come from, which gives value to that work. We make lots of choices in where we work and why we work in one place rather than the other. And that is based on the values you have, the way that you're brought up, the things you've seen in your life. So the whole program about writing it was really difficult to write an opening statement where you synthesize the whole of your life into a few thousand words, but that then gives you the strength that you bring into your leadership. Because what's really important in your leadership piece, what I found is that I'm just human. I say to people, say to me, "Oh, you're a chief executive," and I say, "Do you know what? I'm just like you. I'm just an ordinary person."
mm,
Um, and I'm pretty good at some things, but I'm just an ordinary person. I've got kids, I've got a dog, I've got family, I've got what am I talking in the background? Ignore that. I'm just an ordinary person,
mm,
and that gives people the confidence to think, well, if she can do that, then I can do that. But also, you talk about your vulnerabilities, you talk about things that you do well, which is where mentors and coaches have really helped me in the past.
mm,
So when I've been in a difficult role, difficult ops role, a coup and an acute trust through winter is a hard place to be, and it makes you doubt whether you can do this or whether you can carry on.
mm,
Having those sage heads to help you talk and reflect. I'm not a hugely reflective person.
mm,
It helps me to have conversations with other people when I think about where I am, why I'm there, what I might need to do differently in different circumstances. So leadership development is a long-winded answer to your question, Louisa, but leadership development comes in many shapes and sizes,
it does.
some more effective than others. And I think you find something that suits you and
Mm,
also it'll be in a moment. So sometimes when you're in a crisis,
mm,
you will find that some things are much more important to you than others.
mm,
And when you're in a new role like I am, or when you're setting out your plan to, what I want to be known for as chief executive,
mm,
having conversations with people who know you well
mm.
um, are are really valuable.
And I think you might have answered the next question already, but just in case there's anything else that you'd like to say about it, I'll ask, which is, so you really talk there about developing the human in the role almost, not necessarily learning skills, but learning how to be you uh,
Yeah.
as you're most effective in the role. So, what for you is the most effective kind of leadership development to develop leaders and leadership?
I suppose what I've it has to come from it has to come from within. It's not something that you get. I have felt much more powerful as a leader when it comes from within, when there's a real authenticity about who I am.
Mm,
So I'm not pretending that I care for some things or don't. I'm not pretending that I'm good at some things and not good at others. It
mm,
comes from the strength within me.
mm,
And I suppose that confidence is only developed through, doing some things well, doing some things not so well, learning from those, talking them through with people, talking to people who've made similar mistakes or different mistakes and how they've moved forward, because you don't progress in any of these roles without making mistakes. But it's about how you. Somebody once said to me, "We all make mistakes. The issue is about how you deal with them." And that's in the personally, but also within the roles that you are when you're leading. And actually, when you say that to people, they're not afraid to make mistakes. So my leadership style is very much about, let's have conversations. We all make mistakes. Let's deal with it in a way that will see us forward. So I suppose it comes from. It's very much about who I am, and it's very much about sharing. I'm not perfect. None of us are perfect, and that makes people feel comfortable to, I don't know, keep on going. I mean, particularly at the moment in COVID, I've seen, I'm a new chief executive, got a new executive team, and they have just been remarkable, incredible in terms of stepping up, stepping forward. And my job, I mean, what I say to them is the job of a chief executive is to make everybody else great. I mean, my job, I don't really have a job. My job is to make my exec team be brilliant. And if you can do that, then that's what it is. And my learning is about that sort of humility of, I'm just an ordinary person. I'm not actually particularly good at anything. My strength is about bringing out the best in the people.
Well, I mean, it's also true that I think you probably just anticipated the next question as well, which is,
Sorry.
No, it's great actually. We almost look planned here, don't we? If you were to think about the most valuable learning for you as a leader from leadership development, what stands out for you?
Yeah. So there's two things that I say to people in terms of my learning. I don't know if it's from leadership development or just, what I've learned over my time. Two phrases. One, trust the intent. And two, it's probably cock up rather than conspiracy. So in terms of, particularly at the moment, where COVID is difficult, people are stretched and busy. There's, the white paper landed yesterday. What does that mean? More change. You have to trust that people's intentions are good, but actually there might be some issues in terms of the delivery. And that has helped me in terms of, I haven't been in Bradford long, and already I've sort of sat in meetings and think, oh, it's a bit rude. You can't really say that about my services, or but actually, you have to trust that people are in these roles for the right reasons, and you have to. It's the relationships that you have with those people whereby you get together and say, I landed a bit badly. I'm sure the point is that we want what's best for our populations or our patients or whatever it might be. So that's really helped. And there's been a number of many situations where I sort of think, trust the intent. And then the cock up conspiracy thing is, somebody told me years ago, it takes a huge amount of effort to create a conspiracy and a huge amount of memory, which I certainly don't have. But if you think about people's intentions are good, and usually it's about that they've done something inadvertently wrong, it just helps in terms of how you ground the conversations you have with people in the relationship you have. Because I've seen, I've worked in lots of systems, lots of organisations. If relationships are poor, particularly senior leader relationships are poor, everybody knows about it, even though you think that they don't. And it sours how people behave, both inside the organisation and outside. And I think we have a responsibility. Another chief executive said to me once, and it was a man, which is a man laughing, he said to me, he was a very experienced chief executive, said, no matter what happens, no matter how difficult it is, and it's like you're in the car in the morning, you drop the mirror down, you put your lipstick on, and you get there, and you keep your lipstick on all day, and then when you come out, you're in the car on the way home, you take that off. And I think you do have to, we're very privileged. The job I'm in is, incredible. I love it. It's a fantastic job. And part of my role is just having broad shoulders, smiling, trusting people's intent, maybe having a little bit of a conversation with them outside the room about how they might deal with that in a different way. What people in the organisation don't want to see is me behaving badly or me being sulky or and I think we talk about that, your question about leadership development, I think, which I've talked nothing about, but leadership development does talk about authenticity and our responsibility. What I feel hugely now as a chief executive is my responsibility as a leader
Mm.
Um, and I think we talk about that in many ways in leadership development, but there's nothing quite like wearing the hat or being in the shoes, because the impact you have, you cast a big shadow in the role that I'm in. I cast a big shadow, and I
Okay.
have to be responsible for that.
Yeah. And from that place as chief executive, what would you like to say to early career health and social care leaders who are at the start of their journey?
So this is me personally, so it might not work for everybody. So I didn't set out to be a chief executive. I just set out to do a job that I really wanted to do, that was interesting, that I felt I could do well. I know some people set out, a 10-year plan, and that's where they want to get to. And if that's your way, that's fine. What I always wanted to do was something that was interesting and something that challenged me. And when the kids ask you on a Friday, "What have you done this week?" So like, oh,
Mhm.
actually, I've contributed. Keep that connection, particularly in the NHS or in social care. Keep that connection with your patients and service users. What are we for? I talk to myself a lot about, chief. What are chief execs for? What's the point? What's the difference that I can bring, by virtue of the fact that I've got a big hat? Uh, but for me, it was never, I want to be a chief executive. I took choices, some of which were better choices than other, and you learn from those. And but actually, I got to a point where I sort of looked around me and I thought, I saw the chief execs, I saw roles that were interesting. I thought I could do that job. Actually, I could do that job and I could do it well. But for me, it was a gradual. It wasn't a, I'm going to be there in 10 years.
Therese, thank you so much for creating the time for this short film, which I know will give everybody who watches it real encouragement in their leadership careers. So thank you.
Thank you, Louisa.